Good morning, folks. This is Sahil Bakar at Zoho. I will be starting today's session. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. If you could go in the chat panel on the left-hand side and just give me a thumbs up or loud and clear or can't hear you at all. Hi, Cynthia. And Brian, Mark, Daniel, Donna, thank you guys so much. Fantastic. Well, today's session is going to be really good. I think it's going to be really fantastic because we have an amazing guest speaker with us today. Her name is Susan Clark. We're going to introduce Susan in just a moment, but I've got to do a few housekeeping things first. So first things first, you should be able to see the title slide in the center of your screen. Now we're using Zoho Showtime, which is a pretty interesting tool. As I move the slides forward, you can actually go back and view previous slides. If you ever get lost, click on the little box that says presenter is here, and then it'll take you back to the slide that I'm on. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to move the slide forward, and it should say today's webinar now. So let me cover a few things on today's webinar. First things first, this webinar is of course hosted by zoho.com/CPA. So that's our accountant group here at Zoho. I'm going to introduce our accountant team in just a moment. It's not just for CPAs, it's for accountants and bookkeepers. And I just want to apologize in advance. A lot of the text is bunched up. I promise I didn't write the presentation like that. Not sure why that's happening, but hopefully we'll do our best to go through it. Now, the questions panel on the left-hand side serves a little bit of a different purpose than the chat panel. So in the questions panel, you can drop in questions for Susan or for the rest of the Zoho team, and we'll answer those questions either individually or we'll project them to the rest of the audience and we'll answer them collectively. You can use a chat panel for issues that you might be having or any just kind of general questions, or if you want to say hello to everybody. If you check out the handouts tab, there is a link that's listed there, so you can use that in the handouts. This session does qualify for 1.5 CPE credits. So to earn those CPE credits, you need to do 3 things. First is attend for the minimum requirement time of the session. And that should actually be a little bit longer than 50. That's for 1 hour. You need to complete polling questions that come up on your screen. So let me give you an example of what one of those polling questions looks like. So go ahead and answer this for us. So the question is just, how are you doing today? And while you're answering this, I can actually show the results to everyone. And we'll use that for a number of polling questions that come up. So just go ahead and pay attention to those. We're going to launch the polling questions every about every 15 minutes or so. So you should see one about 15 minutes after the hour. They might be 5 minutes late if we're in a discussion. We don't want to interrupt it. But that's what a polling question looks like. So you'll need to answer, I believe it's at least 4 out of the 6 polling questions for CPE credit. And then in addition to that, we also have an evaluation that's going to pop up at the end of your session. So don't close this browser window because the evaluation will pop up in that window. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Zoho's team for today. First, we've got Val Steed, our Director of Accountants. Val, you there?
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Very pleased to be here. My background is the accounting profession. I've been at it for a number of years. I was in public practice for about 15 years and a partner and whatnot. So when we get into CRM and financials, and I'll share a few war stories with you about what we did years ago before there were such really great products like are in the market today. So I'm happy to be here to bring in kind of the accountants and CPAs perspective, and looking forward to this presentation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Val. My name is Tala. I'm the program manager here at Zoho for our Zoho Partner Program. You'll hear a lot from me today. And then we also have my colleague, Nathan Rogerson. Nathan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me. And my background, kind of like Val, is I've been in the accounting industry for about 5 to 6 years, and I kind of been in the weeds a lot of the times, but now I'm on the partner team over here at Zoho, and I'm just happy to be here and help anybody in any way possible.
Awesome, and we're glad to have you, Nathan. All right, so our fantastic guest speaker for today, you're going to hear a lot from her. It's Susan Clark. Susan has written a number of books on CRM systems, Zoho CRM specifically, other CRM she's worked on. She's a founder and CEO of Cornerstone Solutions, and she's been a Zoho partner since a really long time. I don't even know how long.
I think 8 years.
8 years, fantastic. And I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I wanna give my impression of Susan from a couple of Zoholics events we had.
No, I come to all of the Zoholics events. I'm missing them so much. Um, I'm Susan Clark. I have focused on CRM space for quite some time. I have my own consulting company. We have consultants that help clients and prospects figure out how to set up their systems. It used to be just CRM, but now it's just over 40 products that we focus on: how to integrate books, how to integrate inventory, all of that stuff to help people really just kind of run their business on Zoho. Yeah, I love it. I love you guys.
Well, we love you too, Susan. So basically, Susan calls me, what is it that you call me?
The books dude.
Books guy, or the books dude. So every time I see Susan at a Zoholics event, she's like, there's a books dude. I got a question for books dude. So in this session, I figured we'd play off each other's strengths, and I'll be the books dude, and you'll be the CRM gal.
That works.
And then we'll go through it that way. Another thing, I just want you to know how deep Susan is in the Zoho rabbit hole. She has a Zoho watch. We don't sell Zoho watches. She has her own Zoho watch and like other Zoho accessories that aren't available anywhere. I don't know where you get them, Susan.
I have a maid.
You have a maid. You've got the backpack. You've got some really cool stuff. The point of all of that is that Susan knows Zoho CRM and the Zoho Finance Suite and just the Zoho Suite in general inside and out. So she's going to be an awesome resource. We're really glad to have you here. And we've got all of the books dudes here along to help on the finance side. So moving on to today's session. So the learning objectives for today's sessions are really simple. We want to identify the primary modules in a CRM application and how the majority of businesses utilize the system. So we realized that majority of folks in this session came here through our Zoho Finance Suite. You're probably wondering, okay, how can I actually use Zoho Books along with Zoho CRM? How do I use the Zoho Finance tools along with the other sales tools? So that's what we're going to focus on is what are those modules that you need to worry about in CRM, and how do you actually use them? We'll talk about how to define workflows for an effective front and back office integration. So when we talk about front office, we're really talking about a CRM system, a sales system. When we talk about back office, we're really talking about the finance modules. So how do we actually integrate the two, and what does that look like in real terms? This is a 90-minute session, so we are actually going to go through in some serious depth, talking about how the system works. Then Susan's actually going to take us through a demo, how to set it up, how it actually functions. And then we'll have Q&A time. So we have a lot of time. We have a lot of ground to cover as well. And then finally, we're going to identify and target 3 primary challenges that arise from disconnected systems and how this integration actually solves them. There's a lot more than these. These are just some of the main ones that I came up with, but I think it kind of helps signify what we are going to cover today. All right, so now we are moving on to why accountants or even business owners or anyone in finance should care about sales. When I say accountants, don't think about it as just them. It's anyone who's related to finance in a company. So one specific reason for accountants or those in the finance department that they should care about sales is that they have a deep insight into their client's business. They've built a high level of trust with those clients, and they are able to help explain things that they often don't see on the surface. So as we go through the system, you'll see that if you know a lot about invoices, invoice management, then you also know a lot about sales, and those two are more interconnected than you think. And finally, they're uniquely positioned to connect these dots throughout the rest of the organization. So one of the things that Susan talks about the most is how you can actually use the rest of the tools, right? Those 40 plus apps she's talking about, to deploy them across your business so that you are working more efficiently, so that you're working in a way that actually prevents you from having to copy and paste data. You're actually able to use some of the integrations as they've been created. And finally, you can offer a high value service. So let's start at the absolute basics. What is CRM? Now, this is just the real basics, and then we'll have Susan give us her definition. So CRM is mainly used in a couple different ways. One is for leads. So leads are tracking potential customers and attempting to close those deals and sell to them. So a lead can be any piece of information you have about someone that you're going to reach out to. So that might be a phone number, that might be an email. You might have met them at some kind of event and they handed you a business card. Any of those types of communication are a lead, so someone that you're going to reach out to. Now, once you've actually converted a lead, they're called accounts in CRM. So that allows you to track those interactions and sales with this customer over a long period of time. So these types of communications include, of course, emails and phone calls, but also meetings, documents that you've exchanged between the two. I mean, really anything. And then you move on to the deal stage. So anytime you're selling to an account, there is a deal that has different levels of progress. There's lots of different customizations you can do for this, so depending on what your workflow is. But the basic analysis of a deal is, did you win it or did you lose it? And so that's kind of just the basics of the way I look at CRM. Susan, when folks ask you why they should use a CRM, what do you tell them?
Well, mostly I say I can't imagine not using a CRM. It is basically, I have some people say, well, I could use Outlook because everything's in Outlook. But in reality, if you're a single person, you could do that. But if you're sharing contacts, if I want to work with my team and I say something to a client and then another one of my team members come in, they need to be able to see, when was the last time I met with them? What did I say to them? What did they say to me? It's a way to share information. And you can't do that in Outlook. And then I have some people say, well, we'll put it in QuickBooks, whatever our accounting system is. And that's great, but you can't put prospects in or you shouldn't. I don't know any accountant that would put prospects in their accounting system. And it's not a way of a good way to keep track. So the idea is that in an ideal world, which is what we're going to talk about today, is what if I had my sales team in CRM and even operations in CRM, and I have my finance people in books. Wouldn't it be great if they could talk to each other? And
a lot of times I think about it as, even in smaller organizations, if you're wearing multiple hats and you are the sales guy and the finance guy, then sometimes it's really easy to get your wires crossed and you're not sure, what are some of those details, what are some of those events. So instead of having a separate calendar, you could use the one within CRM to track meetings and all that sort of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just like a ton of different advantages. Even to the standpoint of having a name and address so you can do mailings and keep up with your clients that way.
Yeah.
Let me just add one thing. I'm sorry, Susan. I couldn't help but jump in here just a little bit history-wise. Years ago, and I'm talking, folks, late 80s, I was with my small firm in Salt Lake City, and partners in my little firm were really progressive. And even back in the day, they felt the need to do something different than standard accounting with clients and all the people they were serving. They literally wanted me to go in, and I used DBase back in the day to create essentially a customer relationship man. That's really what it was. It was a DBase database tracking our contacts with our clients. And the key things they wanted to know were not your traditional, what do they owe us? What was, this last billing? It was more stuff like, what team do they root for? What's a big deal in their life? What gift have we given them in the last year or so? So we had different gifts we like to give to different clients. There was another field they had me at. It was just like a hot button. What means a lot to this client? You want to get this client talking to you, this customer talking to you. What means a lot to this person? That's really the first time I got involved in something that ended up becoming what we now call customer relationship management. It worked so well. The good news was it worked really, really well. The bad news was they were really hung up on the DBase version, and they stayed on that till just about like 5 or 6 years ago when they went to more of a real practice management tool and moved off the old DBase.
Well, the good thing now, Val, is that stuff like Zoho CRM or other CRM tools, you can always, export your data. You can always store it in a variety of ways. So the customization level here is just so high that even someone who's not a programmer, they'll be, as Susan's going to show us a lot of the ways that you can customize the system. So it's really not something that folks have to be kind of nervous about anymore. So, but yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I think kind of exemplifies what a CRM is, a little funny. I don't know if you guys remember this old movie called Bruce Almighty. And so he basically, in this movie, he he meets God, who's Morgan Freeman in this, and he opens his file cabinet of all this information on everyone. And that's exactly how I always envision a CRM system is. It's basically just a massive file cabinet that's really, really organized and has every piece of information that you need. And that's really what I think of as a CRM. So that brings us on to who uses a CRM. So of course, we know sales teams use it. When you want to create a quote to cash pipeline. So what do we mean by that? Basically, a quote to cash pipeline is going to be when you are sending out estimates and deals and you're looking to track the progress until you can close them. When you want to market to existing customers. So this is probably one of the most useful functions of CRM I've seen, especially for smaller businesses. I grew up in a family where we always had our own business, and one of the most difficult things was figuring out an effective way to reach out to existing customers and understand, okay, customer X purchased this from us a year ago, customer Y purchased this 6 months ago. How do we market to them specifically? And if you don't have all the information in one place, it makes it really difficult, because then you are searching invoice data, then you're searching emails to try and figure out what it is you talk to them about. But having it all in one place makes it so much easier.
Tal, I would ask
Yeah.
In addition to sales teams, I think it's just the business management. There's a whole management team of the owners and everybody else who just needs to find out who we're talking to and what's going on. I don't think it's
Right.
just the sales team. I think it is an operations group as well. Anyway,
No,
sorry.
absolutely. No, absolutely. That's a good point. I think when I was writing this, I was probably thinking more along like who's entering a lot of the data you see in a CRM. But you're absolutely right. In terms of consuming the data, it's almost anyone who has any sort of overlook on the organization, right? I know one of the ways that a CRM really transforms most businesses is that people can actually start to take time off and work doesn't just have to stop completely. And that's because someone else can actually go into CRM and view all of the information for a particular deal or an account or a customer and follow up with them and not have to say, okay, we'll have to wait till Susan comes back from vacation. Susan never really takes vacation, as far as I can tell. As far as I can tell. And then this is kind of in relation to what you meant on the business side, but anyone who wants to track what each employee or any member of that organization is saying or doing with clients and prospects. And the reason for that's so important is you might have a customer reach out and say, this is what was promised to me from this person. And if you're trying to go back and find what it is that was said, it becomes a lot more difficult when you have to rely on that person to search their email or whenever they're available. This way in CRM, everything that's communicated with a customer can be looked up by anyone. And of course, there's permissions and things like that you can set up, but that's a general principle. So,
hey Tal, before we continue, let's go ahead and launch the first poll question. This is for CPAs, and actually, it's awesome if everybody else can answer as well, just so we kind of get a basis of where our viewers are tuned. Cool.
Yeah, so just to get some participation.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So go ahead and answer that poll, and I'll go ahead and check to see if there's any questions in the question panel. I usually use this time to look over that. All right, we've got folks from all over today, and this is really exciting. All right, so I think that's enough time for the poll. Let's go ahead and move on. So what are some of the benefits of using a CRM system? The main one that we're going to talk about with the integration is increasing productivity. So having all that information in one place, but really when we get into, you'll see the finance details which are coming up, this will become apparent to you. So improving communication across your organization. So this doesn't only include communication to customers or prospects. I also use the CRM a ton for internal notes, for bringing in another person within the organization to handle something. So for example, if there's some type of question that I have as a lower level employee and I need to bring in a manager, I can simply tag them in one of those discussions, and then they'll get a notification, and all of that will take place inside CRM. Makes it so much easier, allows them to see all the information in one place. And then you'll also notice that a CRM system also has some really great reporting capabilities. So we'll talk about the dashboards that you'll see within the integration from CRM and Books, but also just understanding sales activities and those results. So how many deals did we actually close in the last 90 days? How many of those were for over $500, and how many were for between $200 and $500? So those types of things become very, very apparent when you have all that information. And it allows you to centralize all those customer-related activities. So I think it's become pretty apparent we're beating the dead horse here, sort of, but I really want to drive home the fact that a CRM system isn't only for just storing contact information. It's for a lot more than that. So there's a few questions you want to ask yourself or your clients if you're an accountant when you're thinking about setting up this system. So the first is, how do you track and follow up with leads? So right now, if you are creating a new contact in your phone directory, that's a really bad way. I know a lot of small businesses do that. I remember we did that growing up, and always had like 5,000 contacts in your phone. It becomes really hard. But how are you actually tracking them? How do you currently track customer information and interactions? So if it's only limited to your accounting system, what about all the other interactions you had leading up to the sale? Is that only in your Gmail? Is it only in your Outlook? Is it in some type of Office 365 account? Where is it? And can you actually pull it up for a customer in under 5 minutes? And how do you target existing customers for new sales? Do they come in through some type of website form that you have? So, if you have a form, where does the form data go? Is it associated with this customer information later on? Or if you're actually doing kind of cold calling, how do you know how long it took them to react to your initial email or phone call? All those sorts of pieces of information. And this is the one that we're going to focus on today, is sales data kept in a separate system from finance data? So we're going to go into some of the issues that come up with this, but I know, Susan, you've probably seen a lot of accounting systems that have data that are really different than finance system, especially when you come in. How have you kind of seen businesses overcome this kind of lack of information on both sides? Like, do you have to revamp the accounting system, or do you kind of start the sales system from a new place? Kind of what's like the basic process or thought process you go through when you see something like that?
Well, it really varies by customer, because you have people who never kept any data. It was all the salespeople have stuff in their Outlook and it's not in an easily accessible place, or they keep everything in an Excel file and they try and bring it up and share it somewhere. You never revamp the finance system. I mean, I don't know that I would ever do that. The idea would be you would want to link it. Sometimes if somebody needs a starting place, sometimes we can export the accounts and contacts from their financial system and then bring them into Zoho. So at least the sales team has a starting place of what are the active accounts and addresses and stuff like that.
So you can start a CRM at any point in time. It doesn't have to be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, it's just each company is going to be different in what kinds of things they want to track and what even elements of things they want to track. If you're going to do some, like Val had said earlier, do you want to keep track of who plays golf so you can invite them, or
right,
or not?
Birthdays or something.
Yeah, and if that's not your style, then no big deal. Whatever is important, the important thing is to create a system that supports you. You don't have to support a system with data that you'll never care about.
Wow. I know. And I feel like people, that's kind of a shocker to them, is that they don't have to mold their business to the software. They can do it the other way around. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty interesting. There's a lot of tools, of course, that you have to kind of go through all the customization functions. But if you have someone like Susan, you can see how to do that. The last question that I just want you to ask yourself is, can you look up in under a minute which salesperson generated the most profit, not sales, but profit for the year to date? If you can't do that in under a minute, then you might want to consider using a CRM. All right, so let's actually talk about the sales to finance workflow. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So when we talk about the sales to finance workflow, this really relates to, generating leads, qualifying them, and then selling to them. And typically the second portion of this is really all we talk about, right? Once a customer is ready to go, they're ready to pay, that's when finance takes over. That's when our finance applications take over. But what about that first part, right? And how do we actually link this workflow so that we can see the full picture? So when we talk about the front office and the back office, we're talking about tools in the front office like email campaigns. We're talking about your website analytics. We're talking about a customer support ticketing, if you have that. A lot of times this is just email based, but how are you tracking all of these people who are coming into your organization? And when we talk about the back office, we're usually talking about an accounting system, inventory management, subscription management, really all the stuff that I typically focus on. But you can think of instances where it's important to bring in information, not all the information, but bring in some information from the front office and from the back office. So for example, if you have a customer that reaches out and says, hey, what's the status of my order? And the person who created the order isn't the person who's receiving this message. It would be a little bit difficult for them to go back and see what the payment status is in the accounting system, what the shipment status is in the inventory management system, and whether this customer really even exists in our CRM, or maybe they're calling under a different name or email that we need to look up. So when you have all those disconnected systems, it becomes very, very difficult to figure out which tool to go to and who to go to within an organization. So when we talk about the front office, we're usually talking about the face of the company. Now, I know the goal is always to make the customer happy, but if we're not able to get information quickly, or we tell them, oh, we'll have to call you back, then that really doesn't help drive that forward. It's always dependent on the demand that's generated, right? So if there's lots of customers coming in with certain questions, then that's the information you're going to be able to find. But when we talk about the back office, it's usually behind the scenes. It kind of runs on its own time frame. It's really designed to make sure that we're getting paid and we're paying our bills, and it's mostly dependent on schedules and timelines that aren't related to the front office, right? It may not be specific to the way a salesperson wants those things to operate in. So when we look at these two systems, we know they operate very, very differently, but they can't operate without each other. So what does this look like in practice? So in a traditional cycle, once a quote has been converted, and let's say the customer says, yeah, I'm ready to buy this thing, then it goes to a back office, and it kind of gets lost a little bit in a void there. So there's a little bit of a delay. You have to figure out, once that invoice is generated, when does the customer actually pay it? And the front office, if you have a separate sales team, they don't typically know when that occurs. Or if you're using a number of applications that aren't connected, even if you are both a front and back office, you'll have to look up in a separate place to actually figure out when that order is paid. And then if you are actually delivering goods, then there's an entire kind of third area of packaging and shipping that product that you need to track as well. And that's typically another system. The best example I always give, mainly because I love cars and I grew up in a car dealership, is that, and not literally grew up in it, like slept in it, but my parents owned a car dealership, is that when you have a front office and back office, and anybody who's bought a car knows that the salesperson will basically sell you the world, and then you'll go into this like glass box in the back with a totally different person who has no idea really what the salesperson said, and it's just a completely different relationship. And this is probably the most stark example of that, but this happens in companies that sell products online. This happens in companies that have retail operations. This happens in more areas than you think. So let's actually focus on some of those different areas. So the first one that we'll take a look at is data integrity. So what are some real examples of data being misaligned between these two sides, and then how do we actually correct them? The second we'll look at is increasing productivity, and the third will be insights. And then after all of this, we'll go through a pretty involved demo. We're going to do a lot of discussion and talk about how we can actually set this integration up. Okay. All right. So for the first, on data integrity, I want to talk about how this might actually be disconnected in contacts. So this is a really small difference, but let's say you actually have just a small address that's entered incorrectly in two systems. So this might be because someone was copying it into the system, maybe typing it in based on an order that was printed out. But this could have some serious ramifications. Let's say the address was incorrect by a letter or a number, then the order might go to a different place. And tracking this issue down can often be really difficult. So one of the things that you'll take a look at when we go into the system is, if I update the address information in the finance module, it'll automatically update in the sales module, and vice versa. And there'll be a record of when that was changed and who it was changed by. You can even use the client portal to actually have a customer update their own address information. Let's say they moved and they want to continue doing business with you, but they like to update their shipping address. That'll update across your system as well. So those are some of the areas that data integrity becomes really important. Another one is syncing this data across different applications. If you're using a third-party connector for two tools that really weren't built to work together, then there's often a delay. There's often an issue in getting that information from the front and back office. So we're going to resolve that using the integration within Books and CRM. Now, this one's a lot more important. When we take a look at invoices, there might be a reason to actually modify an invoice. Let's say a customer hasn't paid on time, and there's going to be some sort of penalty that's going to be applied to a particular invoice. Maybe it's a percentage or a fixed fee or $15. Now, if the salesperson doesn't actually know that, they may not even know that the invoice wasn't paid on time. They may try to continue selling to a delinquent customer. And I think, Susan, you were mentioning that you've actually seen that happen in systems, right?
Yeah, if the systems aren't connected in some way, there's no way a sales rep usually knows if there's a huge outstanding balance. But it's very easy, which we'll see in a little bit, to see even from inside the CRM if they have a huge balance outstanding.
Yeah. And so when we dive into it, you'll actually show us kind of generating an invoice in CRM, having that show up in Zoho Books, and making
Absolutely.
changes to it. Okay, awesome.
Estimates, sales orders, whatever.
Great. All right. So when we're actually taking a look at, then this is a screenshot of that screen that you'll show us, is that one of the most important things that I look for is the status. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the column that says status. And a lot of times, I find that this is probably one of the biggest issues. I worked in a sales job once too, and is that not knowing what the order status is, because the CRM system doesn't pick up on that information, right? Once I have said this order is completed, quote unquote, then I want to know when it's been paid. And usually the way you find out when it's been paid is you have to contact someone from the finance department and figure out, has it been paid? Because what's the most important thing that traditional sales teams care about is commission, and when are they going to get paid? And so if they have to track someone down and hunt them down, it makes their job a lot harder to know some of that basic information. So having just basic order statuses pop up. This is a view inside of Zoho CRM, but it's showing us information from Zoho Books. So you'll see it's in, as Susan was mentioning, I can pull up invoices, estimates, sales orders, or purchase orders, and view that information related to a CRM contact here. So
Hey, Tala,
I think it's
before
actually time
we
for our second
continue.
poll. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted
Yeah,
to go
Nathan,
and
go
run
ahead.
the second poll.
No problem. Thank you. And just taking a look at our questions panel. So Edwin asked, is there a way to track the volume of sales completed with a particular account? Absolutely, right, Susan?
Yeah.
So you can slice and dice that in a number of ways too. So it could be volume of sales within a particular period of time. It could be with a particular salesperson on that account. All right, fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's it for the polls.
Okay, thank you so much, Nathan, for keeping us on track. All right, so let's take a look at increasing productivity and actually going into, what are some of the benefits that we are going to see. So when I typically look at kind of all of the different people and systems involved in fulfilling an order, there's a number that come to mind. First is whoever's communicating with the customer. So it could be the person on the floor, it could be the salesperson, person sending them an email or a phone call. Then, once we've moved beyond that, we're really talking about AR and possibly AP. So this is the back office. So did we receive the funds? Have there been any late charges? Has the invoice been sent out? All those sorts of things that are important for fulfilling this order. And then if we're actually delivering some type of service or product, then we're going to go to operations. We might be back ordered and we have to purchase more of that product. Then you're actually bringing in, procurement and requisitions. And then if we are delivering products, then we're bringing in shipping and logistics. So just in this one example, you're talking 5 different systems, and this doesn't even include managing your e-commerce store or where you're getting paid from or all those sorts of different things. So Susan, one question I have for you is, what are the different types of businesses that you feel benefit most from this integration? Like, do you see a certain type of industry that you work with more, or do you focus on any particular areas that you find, like, is it online sales? Is it in-person sales? Or
Yes.
Yes. Cool.
No, it works across a lot of industries. It doesn't work well, I'll just tell you, for people whose businesses are strictly based on rentals.
Okay.
That because you can't rent out a piece of inventory and get it back in to inventory, at least not yet. But pretty much everybody else, I think it's really more the size of company, how committed they are to their accounting system. Um, I the benefits of the integration, I hope you'll see in a little bit, are so great to be able to see everything in CRM, um, what you can from a books integration, that it's pretty hard not to see the advantage. Sometimes people say, well, I can't switch because we use this particular accounting system, and I can't switch because they won't like it. I'm like, who runs your business? You or your accountant? I mean, you have to do something that is valuable for you and it will help you be productive. And if it works and if it helps you be more valuable, then it's worth it. Switching to a different accounting system is not nearly as hard. I mean, we've done it internally. It's not nearly as hard as people think it is, because in accounting, a general ledger is a general ledger, and a chart of accounts is a chart of accounts, and an invoice, they're all the same. The words are the same.
Right.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
And one of the things, and I want to bring Val and Nathan on this, because you guys have been those accountants on the other side where a customer will want to do a migration. I know this is kind of a little bit outside of this particular topic, the CRM, but just because it's so important in relation to this. What are some of the difficulties when someone says, hey, I want to use this new piece of software that's going to make my business a lot easier, but it's going to cause me to have to migrate my accounting system? What do you tell a client when that happens?
Well, first, I would always look at, hey, do you really want me to put in this work? And secondly, I would look at to see if it integrates within the accounting system. And so that's kind of one of the cool things about Zoho is how seamlessly it integrates. And there's other platforms out there that integrate with each other. And that's just one of the key questions I would ask the client is, does this integrate with the accounting system? Because it can make the billable hours go from 10 to 100 if you're not
Right.
careful.
So one thing you're talking about is whether you're talking about like third-party integrations or native integration, right? Because I know some of the systems I've looked at, like with the CRM, I might have to create something using Zapier, which is like those third-party connectors. But and Susan, you've probably used a lot of those. That's not the best way to go usually, because you're leaving out some piece of information, or there's a delay, or otherwise, right?
You're leaving out a lot of stuff, because just because a third-party integration says, yes, we have something, it doesn't mean it's going to give you what you want. For like Zapier, for instance, they link the contact name, address, phone number. So that's great. So if it updates on one side, it updates on the other, but it doesn't necessarily bring over the invoices and pieces of information like that. And that's really what you want to see inside your CRM.
Right.
So you have to be careful when something says it integrates. You have to look at the details of what is included in the integration.
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
One thing you're going to show us is, I think we looked at it yesterday, which was, is it a two-way integration or is it a one-way integration? And those things are really important. Two-way meaning it communicates between both apps. One way would be one app only sends information to the other. But one of the things that I try to focus on, I'll move on, this is kind of the last point, is I want to stop thinking about running a business in terms of the apps. I just want to think about running a business in terms of, what do I need to run the business? What are the tools that service those is kind of secondary. I really want to focus on the workflow and not say, okay, I got to move into this product to get this done. Rather, it should be, this is the next thing that I have to do. How can we do that more easily? It's kind of just some of the differences I look at there. So, so we're almost done with kind of this portion. But these are some of the some of the questions that I have in mind is, based on what stage the order is in, let's say the order status is unknown to anyone aside from the person who's handling it. This is a really common one where everyone's following up with that one particular person saying, hey, where does this stand? Where do we go from here? And having all that information be bottlenecked in one person makes this a lot harder when we're trying to figure out all these questions of who, what, when, where, why, or how. It can cause a bunch of headaches when that person's unavailable. So I know one of the cool features, and Susan's going to show us on her phone as well. You can log calls with a customer. So if again, this is an ideal world. Hopefully people use the tools that are available to them, but that helps you go back and say, because this is a big problem I have, is I'll forget who I talked to or what it is that we talked about. And so I usually have some way of writing down notes real quick, just so that I can go back and see what it was that occurred there. But having them on a legal pad that you left at home doesn't really do you any good when you need to look that up and you're on the road.
Not to mention, actually, Kyle, you can actually
Yeah.
talk in your notes as well now. I mean, and
voice notes?
Yeah, in CRM, you can talk in all of your notes. You don't have to
Ooh.
type it in if you don't want to. I'll demo that if you like. It's actually
Yeah.
very, very cool, and it's pretty darn accurate, unless you have a really bad accent.
And then we have the final point, which is just the unnecessary running around. So kind of like you said, if you have to wait to take in those notes, or let's say you are, you're about to drive off somewhere, you just got done with a call and you're just sitting in your car, you don't want to have to pull up like 3 different systems to get this information. You just want to do it real quick, get on with your day, move on to the next point. So, and then this is a common point that we're going to talk about that comes up a lot of times with the businesses I work with is what is the order status? So we're going to look at the sales and purchase information. But one of the most interesting functions that I've used, and folks can let us know in the chat box if you use inventory management or if you use Zoho Inventory or another system, is actually figuring out what the status of the shipment is and having that information come in. I didn't really think about this until I saw it in practice, but it is so difficult to have to pull up a tracking number and just Google it or go into FedEx or UPS and see what's going on there, where if that is already integrated in your inventory management system, just giving that information, fetching it is so much easier than having to do that each time. All right, so the last one that we're going to focus on before we jump into the super in-depth demo is insights. So when we are setting up this integration between CRM and Books, one of the cool things that shows up is now you have a bunch of different finance dashboards that you can create, and also there's ones that are already generated there. So for example, this is a dashboard that shows different accounts and their related expenses. So for example, if you're using a expense management software like Zoho Expense or even Zoho Books from your phone, and you log an expense for a customer or even a potential customer, a lead, then how do you actually know how much you've spent on acquiring this customer? If your salesperson has to keep, this is pre-COVID, hopefully post-COVID too, has to keep taking out this customer for steak dinners before they buy on to a, let's say it's a $500 sale and you've already spent $200 on steaks with them, then that's a cost that we need to factor into the profitability of this particular client. But that becomes really difficult when this is something that's difficult to log. So one of the things that I do all the time with my Zoho Expense app is just take a picture of that receipt. But if you want to pull that up later, where is that information going? So I think if we have time, Susan, you also show us Zoho Expense too, I think from the mobile app, right? All right, and then live invoice statuses. So let's say I just want to see in real time which invoices are in what status. Let's say I want to look at, overdue. If there's only 3 invoices this morning that are as of overdue, how do I quickly see those and then jump into them? So this is one of the pie charts that becomes available to you. And then as we, kind of go through this, let's actually jump into the integration. And I'm going to turn the reins over to Susan. But before we do that, Susan, can we launch our 3rd poll question just so that you are ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Nathan, do you want to launch that for us? Thank you so much.
I just launched it.
Thank you so much, Nathan. All right, so while that's happening, I'm going to transfer control over to you, Susan.
All right, I think we're ready. Almost everybody's answered it, and I appreciate everybody who is answering the poll questions. It really gives us a good insight on your involvement during the presentation.
Hey, Susan, we can see you too.
Hey. Are we good?
All right, I think we're good to go.
Alana mentioned I had a Zoho belt buckle. I was going to show. I was going to show the Zoho belt
Oh,
buckle.
wow.
And you're from Houston, Texas, where
You have to have a
used
big,
to live myself.
obnoxious belt buckle,
You
or
gotta have one.
you can't be from Texas, right?
Have you gotten any Zoho boots stitched yet? Is that
No, sorry, I draw the line.
Okay.
You trouble.
There's some things that are sacrilege.
or golf shirts with the Zoho.
Yeah.
I'm
logo.
trying to get myself some Zoho boots, but we'll see if that ever happens.
Those are pretty expensive to custom design.
All right.
So let me just switch to share my screen. But okay. So I'm going to start. I am actually a CRM. I have been a CRM user for years and years and years. That's just where we came from. We switched over to books quite a few years ago. We use Zoho Inventory, and we're also going to look at expense. I thought I'd look at all 4 of the Zoho apps. If somebody is really interested, we could also look at subscriptions because all of those finance apps integrate into the Zoho CRM. The idea is that, but I did want to mention that we did switch. We used to use QuickBooks for a lot of years, and we switched, I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago over to Zoho Books, and it was hard. I mean, I'll just tell you, because any change is hard. Even though I love the integration and I think it's like amazing, it's always hard to do something new because your hand, on the mouse always knows where to go in the other program. But it doesn't really take that long to get up to speed. And I think that Nathan has there's a handout that'll be at the end. I always start when I learn a new product. I start by creating what's called a cheat sheet, which is like a 2-page little back and forth kind of document that just kind of helps me kind of figure out where I am. So I was going to bring it up and show you. It'll look like this. It'll just tell you how to create an invoice, how to create a bill, how to do expenses, how to mark payments as received. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a really basic little thing that'll help you get started.
Yeah, that handout is actually over there on the left-hand side in the handouts, if everybody wants to look at that.
Oh, thanks. So I think let's start with CRM. And, this is my home screen, but I'm actually I have a favorite person in my CRM called Lance Parker. He is my fake person, but I can use him quite a bit. And the idea is that if Lance Parker is one of my customers, I can keep track of everything I need to know about Lance in CRM. I want to know in accounting how much money he's given me. But I know from here, I'm like, he is a referral. He came from somebody. I see his phone number. I see his email. He wants a quote for something. I have a custom field called recent conversation trigger. So I just remember the next time I talk to him, I know what we talked about the last time. I can see notes. I can see that Christina put in a note about a billing update. I can see he's been on our website and there was a sales IQ chat. So there's a lot of things I can see about him in addition to all the different fields. Now, sometimes I don't demo my database because people will look at it and they go, oh, I have too many fields. Well, I've been doing this for like 25, 30 years. So we're used to seeing a lot of fields and now we crave it. We want to see all of the information that's out there. Anything about that client, it helps us to know more when we get in touch with them. But ideally, so notice all the related list at the left. These are all of the different things. I can look at the previous emails. I have an open activity where we have to follow up on a proposal. I have closed activities, things we've done. We've had lunch, we've had calls, we've had meetings. I can look at deals that are in play, things that are open, things that are closed. And if he has open support tickets. But what we're here to talk about is finance. Let me just come down just a little bit. Notice that over here at the left, we can look at finance, subscriptions, or expense. So I'm going to go look at finance. The idea is that here I can see these are estimates and sales orders and invoices that are actually in the books system. So they're just kind of duplicated. They're pointers here. If I click on this estimate and it comes up, this isn't actually something that's technically in CRM. It's something that's over in the books system, but it allows me as a salesperson or an operations person inside of CRM to see what was ordered and what's the status of it. It was an accepted estimate. I'm going to come back. So I can see that he had, go back down. He had estimates. I see that there are sales orders. An estimate and sales order would be, of course, something where he's ordered something and it hasn't been shipped yet or it's not available. And then, of course, there are invoices. And I can see someone asking the questions, how will I know if my client has paid something or not? And I can see here, these are voided. Again, this is a fake person, so sometimes I put stuff in and then throw it out. But I can see that Lance owes me $18 here, and he owes $42.43 here. Let me go back up to the top of the screen, because one of the things that you normally see at the top is this section called Finance Details. Once you've integrated Zoho CRM and Zoho Books, they put this section at the top of each client record. It'll be on Lance's record, but it'll be on the company's record as well. I can look at it at any place, and I can see, do they owe us money? So I click on this little drop down here, and it'll say, hold on, I move my mouse. It'll say, this client owes me a total of $60.43. That was the two invoices, the $42.43 and the $18. So I can see that he owes me money. So I can say, are there any shipments in progress? Yes, I have. There's 2 things that are in progress. I can look at things he's ordered. He's ordered 5 things. There are 4 things that are waiting to be shipped, and we're waiting to invoice the rest of it. So I can see a status very high level up here. If he owed us money, if there was a lot of money, it would tell us. If he has a retainer balance, it would tell me, see, like retainer balance is the unused credits. That would be money he paid us, but he hadn't spent or hadn't used yet. So it would look something like this. What I'm going to do is switch over to Books for a second, come into Books, and I'm going to go look up Yellow Jersey Bikes, because that's the name of his company. When I go into Yellow Jersey Bikes, notice that the same thing here is he owes $60.43. Same thing, if I change something here, it's going to change over in CRM, and vice versa. If I change something, if a sales rep goes out and figures out that this is no longer their street address that they've moved, the salesperson can change it in CRM, and it will change it in the accounting system. If I can go here to sales, I can look at those same invoices that I just showed you inside of CRM. I can see previous payments. I can see the estimates. I can see sales orders. Everything that was in one will just immediately be displayed in the other. So it's not a difficult, it's pretty easy to see what's going on. One of the other things is that it's pretty nice for a sales team to be able to generate an invoice or an estimate if you want them to. I might generate a sales order because I like those. You can restrict this if you want to. Sometimes I have clients who want to say the salesperson can generate an invoice, but they can't send it. It has to be approved by somebody in finance or accounting before it goes out. Or you can have it so that they can't do it at all. All they can do is see previous invoices. You can control that kind of security of how you want the interaction to be between Books and CRM. But let's say he ordered something and I want to send it over to somebody in shipping to send out. So I'm just going to create a sales order. Again, say I'm in the CRM now, I'm not in Books, but it's going to pull up a window that's just a mirror into Books. And it'll allow me to create something here so that I know it'll go out right away. So I can do a reference. Let's say he's got a PO number of 23456, whatever. And I don't know the shipment date because I'm not shipping it. I don't know the delivery method because I don't know how they're going to ship it. So there's a lot of things that I can manage here, but I'm just going to put in what I know he wants. I'm going to click here and I'm just going to say he wants a book. And we're going to pick this book right here. And let's say he wants 2 of them. So that's all I have to do. At this point, here I'm going to send it to Lance. I have some other people I could send it to because these are people that, again, they came, they're part of my CRM system. I can save and send. Now, in the case of a rep who doesn't have the ability to send, he'll only see the save button. But I'm going to save and send. And so it will go out and it will show. So now I ordered 2 things. Oh, wait, haven't sent it yet. Let me finish sending it. I'm going to go back to Lance. And I want to, back at the top, immediately shipments in progress or ordered items is going to change. Let me go back to ordered items. Now I have 7 ordered items to be packed. So I've got more things to be packed. Instead of 11 things to be invoiced, I now have 13 things to be invoiced. So everything is just immediately available here in CRM. So now let's go over to, I'm going to go over to inventory, because that's your warehouse or your people that are doing the shipping. And in inventory, I'm going to look at sales orders. Most people in the warehouse will always look at the sales orders every day, and they'll have, let me see, I might change it to for packaging. So here's the stuff that I have to package. They can limit it so they don't look at all sales order. But here's the one I just did. It was immediately available. As soon as I created the sales order in CRM, it was over here in inventory. So I can go in here to open the sales order, and I can get it ready. As the shipping person, I can say, I need to create a package. Now, a package would be, notice it says, I have none packed and none invoiced. So I need to say, sometimes maybe people ordered 15 things, and I can only package 3 of them or something like that. So I have to create a package to say, am I shipping everything or not? See how I can change it. So I'm just going to ship everything. That's fine with me. And I'm going to click save. So I've created a package. And generally what I'm going to do then is create a packing slip. However, I'm not doing that. So it says it's packaged, but it's not shipped. Back over here in CRM, when I look at the sales order, there's the sales order. The rep can open it and look. It'll show the sales order, but what I'll have to do is look at the timeline right here. You see the timeline will say where the status. See, I can say a package has been created. So as a salesperson, if Lance calls me and says, what's the status? I can look at this and say, hey, look, I can see that the package was created. So it's in shipping and they're looking at it and it was created today. So I have the ability to see that almost immediately, I mean, instantaneously, because really it's just a pointer. It's just opening up into that. At this point, I can ship it if I want to. I'm just going to say ship manually. And I don't know that I'm going to go any farther because it's going to ask me to go ahead and pay money because I've got it shipped. I've got it connected to the USPS, and it's actually going to create a label for me. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. But at some point, it just takes it through the entire process. And at the end, you will go to taking it and creating an invoice from it. I would convert it to an invoice. And therefore, because that would basically indicate to the customer that it's probably been shipped. So let me go back for a second.
Susan, could I just add something here as you're going along? We have a question that I've been letting it sit there for a second until we got like a little break point. But I'm going to read you the question. And Tala and Nathan, I want you to think about a reply here too. It's a very good question here. Person asks, how would you reply to the comment that different Zoho products, such as CRM, books, are only minimally integrated with each other? Why use Zoho for both when it's almost the same as using 2 different products from 2 different companies?
You want me to take it first?
Go ahead, Susan.
You can use 2 different products for 2 different companies. That's not, you can do that. Typically, though, in companies that I've worked with, they don't want the salespeople in the accounting system. They don't want it. And a lot of times the accounting system is not on the web. So somebody has to be in the office actually to create the invoice. And a ton of people are not in the office anymore. So you certainly can have 2 systems. It's just more efficient, I think, to have it all in one system. And from a sales or a management, an operations standpoint, not from the shipping and finance, but from the sales standpoint, I can see and do everything in this one. I didn't have to open these other finance packages. I did that so that you can see both sides of it. The salesperson would never leave the CRM. They can see everything they need here.
Right. And the thing that I kind of question there is the question or comment that they're minimally integrated. You know, I've only been at Zoho a little bit over a year, but from what I've seen with the apps, they're quite well integrated. I would say more deeply integrated. And if anything, at times, maybe a little too integrated in places. Yes, we've still got a few places the pipes aren't perfect, but for everything we're showing you today, especially in the finance suite, they're quite deeply integrated across inventory, expense, books, CRM. All this stuff really talks to each other at a deep level. You go out and try to compete with that with other products. Let's just pick on some common ones: QuickBooks, Salesforce, Concur, or Expensify. You can't believe how much time and effort you're going to spend integrating those where the Zoho suite is already integrated. Anyway, that's my answer to it.
Plus the integration, to be honest, is usually between products is usually pretty disappointing. It just is. Occasionally there'll be a good one, but generally speaking, it's not nearly what the client envisioned it would be. They had hoped for more.
And I would say
But
the only thing I wanted to add.
You live with what you need, but
Yeah,
I really think that the integration is pretty darn. I agree with you, Val, that the integration I think is pretty deep. There's not much that I can't do in CRM that I could do in books. Of course, set up.
Tala, you had something there. What did you have?
I just wanted to say that.
I was just going to say, everybody needs to kind of remember as well that Susan's kind of playing both roles right now. So it looks like she's doing things in one
works really well for them because those are the
application whenever she could really do it. A lot of it in one application.
Am I still on?
She doesn't go around. Yeah, you're still on.
Susan, can you hear us? Susan, we can hear you.
Am I still on? Yeah, there we go.
Yes, Susan, you are still on.
Okay.
Yes, we've still got you here, and I'm not quite sure why you couldn't quite hear that. But yes, go ahead, Tyler. Were you there?
No, it's okay. That was it.
No, this is Nathan speaking. Can you hear me?
All right. I think that I think probably one of the other things that I've seen happen is that I have been to a client before on the road and said, or even just talking to the client and saying, they would go, hey, can you resend that invoice to me? And that's actually pretty easy as well, even for the rep. They don't have to get involved with accounting to do that. They can just pull up the invoice that needs to be resent. And once it's pulled up, they just say send via mail. And I'm just going to click that. And it'll automatically send it. And I'm going to click send. I thought I'd show you what it kind of looks like over. I'm going to go over to Lance's inbox so that you can see what it looks like when it comes in. This was the original sales order that came in from the books or whatever. This is what the client would see when it came in so that they can open this up and look at the invoice. I mean, look at the sales order and approve the sales order or not. So it's actually pretty nice that we haven't, the other one that I just resent will come in shortly. So it's just really nice to be able to do that.
Hey, Susan.
I think let me just show you very quickly what the mobile things look like. Okay. One of the nice things is that you can, every CRM app from all of the Zoho One products have a mobile app available. There is a CRM mobile app, which you can click on and find the different things that are going on in your life. And I can look up, let's see, let me look up Tala. See, Tala. So I could look up Tala and ask him something. Let me see if I got, thought, sure, yeah, see, Books, AKA Books Dude, in my system. So I can find out different ways to contact him. I can look at the emails we've changed back and forth. I can schedule new meetings. I could put in a note. I said I would show you how to do a note. The anytime you want to put in a note, you can just click on the T. I don't click this microphone. This microphone is going to do a WAV file, which will actually record the file so that you can replay it and listen to it. I don't need to do that. I just want to take a note. And the idea here is mostly people get to this point and they just want to, hold on, let me go to presentation mode. Mostly people get to this and they click on it and you have to fat finger it, or what they call fat finger it. You want to click on the second microphone that you see, this microphone down here in your keyboard, and click on that. This is a demonstration to show you how you can record your notes inside of Zoho.
There was a question on language on that, Susan. Do we have that in multiple languages? Do you know?
Ooh.
I don't know about that.
Are you talking about the mobile
notes,
apps?
The dictation to mobile apps to notes.
I don't know.
So I'm wondering if that depends on your actual mobile phone and what language it recognizes. I'll bet it does.
I'm pretty sure it depends on it's on the phone. The mobile recording is not a Zoho feature.
It's coming through the phone.
It's coming through the phone.
So if your phone recognizes that your language in your country, it's going to feed that, translate it, and push it into Zoho.
Again, you're going to have to speak. I don't know if you noticed how slowly and carefully I spoke. You can't go fast or slur your words, but it will do it. And of course, I can call Bala from here, or I can map to his location, which would take me a long time to get there, or send him an email, something like that.
Hey, Susan?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and launch the fourth poll question.
Okay.
And we do appreciate everyone's participation. It's greatly appreciated. And we're getting a lot of good information from you, Susan, as well. And we'll have her contact information up after this. So if you want to contact her and let her guide you through these steps, she'd be more than happy to do that. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll question. You can continue, Susan.
Okay. So the other thing that you can have on your mobile app is books. I mean, you can, everything you need to have. The time I said where I've walked into a customer's office and said, hey, he said, can you resend that invoice? Yes, I can do that. So you can go look up the customer. I can go look at invoices, but I can just click on the menu item and say, look up items, look up customers. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can do straight from here. I want to look up customers, and I want to look up, let's say, I'm just going to pick this random person right here. And I can look at previous invoices, and I can resend them, recent shipments, comments and histories, anything I need to do with this client, I can go ahead and send it back out. And there's other things I can do. I can create an invoice. Admittedly, I won't create invoices that much from the road or from the mobile device, but it is possible to do, and it's not that hard. A bill would be a bill to a vendor. I can add a customer, add a vendor. I can record an expense, or actually I can log time. There's actually 3 places in Zoho that you can record time if you want to. So the idea with here, if you are someone who actually bills your time to the client, let's say I can select a project, and when I put in the time and how much it's going to be, as soon as I save it, the next time the accountant tries to create an invoice, it'll say, hey, there's billable hours out there. Do you want me to add it automatically to the invoice for you? So that's a good reason to maybe log your time here if you want to, because it makes it easy to add to any invoice that you create for the customer. But there are other apps as well. If you want to, there's Zoho Expense. We could look at, I don't know if you really want to. There's Zoho Subscriptions. There's a lot of different things that different apps are here to make it easy for you to run your business, either on-premise or remotely, any place you want. I think to mention that all of these apps have an offline kind of configuration, so that if you're in an area, I think it's particularly helpful for the CRM. It could be helpful for books, I'm not sure, but in CRM, if I have reps that are traveling to remote locations where there really isn't good cell or internet service. When I go into, I do a lot of work with medical companies. When I go into the hospital, my phone doesn't work. But even though it doesn't work and it can't get access, when I pull up the CRM, everything is always still there. And whatever I enter, it'll be there so that the next time my phone has access to the internet or to the cell service, it'll automatically upload anything I did while I was remote.
Susan, we have a question about a POS system. Currently, I don't believe we have a POS system
No.
that I'm aware of. And I was wondering have you done any integrations with any other POSs using Zoho CRM to POS or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I know that it's working on a POS. In fact, can I just show you kind of a cool feature about books, if you wouldn't mind for just a second? One of the things, if you want to know a system, see this, I think it's help. See this help and support button? And down here under request new feature, you can click that and go in here, and in addition to looking at, in addition to adding what you want to do, more importantly, go look at the things that have been requested. And this was something people had requested budgets, and now it's recently been released. They've said that we're not going to allow multiple currencies for now. So they're very good about telling you which things they're looking at. This is a great one. I'm looking forward to this one. Stock and warehouse management and sales commissions. I noticed somebody earlier had asked about commissions and being calculated, and I decided not to answer the question because it'll be, I was going to show you here. And the idea is that they're working on it. So if this is really important to you, there's two reasons to vote. One is that you can lend your voice to Zoho to let them know how important it is to your business. And I think you have 10 votes. I'm not positive about this, but anyway, you can vote twice if you want to. But the second reason for voting is that when they release this feature, Reshma, or maybe some of the others, I'm not sure, they send you an email to let you know that that feature has been released. So you know immediately that something that you voted for was on the list. It's important if you have a feature, don't just put it in here by itself. I mean, you can if you want to. It's better to go through and look to see if someone else has added the feature so that you can add your vote and give more weight. If you create your own suggestion, it'll just have one vote and that's yours. And so that makes it farther down in the list. But I think this is a really handy thing. Actually, I wish CRM would do this, but it's a really nice feature. And if you didn't see it, it was just up here under the help and support right here. And it's a request a new feature. I think it's a really, really nice thing that they're keeping up with. And they keep up with it pretty well.
And also with that help and support, you can go there to find, obviously documents, FAQ, and you can reach out to someone on support if you have any issues.
Right.
And really it can help guide you through some of the services Zoho has. So it's a really cool, it's a powerful tool to help out small businesses for all those Zoho users out there right now.
Yep, I just did the chat with us now. They're pretty good about answering the questions. Very good. And I asked somebody else said they wanted to see subscriptions. So I'm just going to go ahead and look at subscription.
Yeah, I see an expense subscriptions. We'll save the last, I guess, 15 minutes for you to kind of go through the questions and see if you can answer any of them.
So subscriptions are here as well. I mean, you could go look at, see, I've got, at one point, Lance had a subscription. So if I go back to Lance's record, I'm going to go back to my little recent items thing here and go pull up Lance. And remember, when I first started, I said, here's the finance right here. But right below that is subscriptions. It has its separate area. So I can see his subscription. It was canceled, but at least I could see what it was, when was the last billing date, next billing date. All of that information would be there if he had an active subscription. And the same thing with expense. There's a Zoho expense, which would be like any kind of expense, expensable, some whatever the different expense apps are. You can use the expense app. Mostly people use it on their phones to either record an expense, either take a picture of it or whatever. But here, all mine are reported. So let me just look at all. So I can see two expenses.
We can catch those sales reps who are spending $200 on meals, like Val was mentioning earlier.
It depends on if it results in a $14 million sale. They can spend all they want.
We have some history here with my old organization, K2 Enterprises. We were originally on Excel spreadsheets, and then we had moved to Concur, and we thought Concur was really pretty good for its date and time. And one of my partners, Tommy, got using Zoho Expense, and was so enamored with it, the fact that it would parse data off that receipt. When you take a picture of a receipt, parse it out, pretty much get everything except for maybe the account correctly done off the receipt. He was really big on it. So that was like our first initiation, if you will, into Zoho apps. And I've just been thrilled with it ever since. I just think the product works terribly well. You take a picture of that receipt, it parses all the data, it pushes it immediately up to your system. It's easy to set up approval processes and flow that through. And I think it's just a terrific product.
It is. And I can see, I just logged in and I can see that the last expense report I put in got approved. I can see this one's still in draft mode. I haven't finished adding everything, but I can either just go straight to the camera or I can just click here. I can manually add the expense if I want to. I can add mileage, or I can record. I can just say record GPS. If I start this, it'll like timestamp it, and it'll figure out, and it'll automatically keep track of the miles that you are. Or I can add a per diem if I want to. But it's actually, very nice system. I can add expense accounts, everything. To be honest, you can even approve from here. If you're a manager, you can go into approval and you can approve your team's expense accounts if that's something that you want to do. You can also do subscriptions. I mean, like I said, every app in Zoho has at least one mobile app. A couple of the apps have two mobile apps. I think Desk is one because they have a separate app for not only tickets that are coming in, but also for reports and dashboards so that anybody can look at how things are going remotely.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I'm going to go ahead and launch the 5th poll question. Remember, we have one more. I'm going to launch the last one probably 5 minutes before the end of the session. And also remember, in order to receive your CPE, you have to stay to the very end and do our evaluation. And anybody else who's participating who's not a CPA, we do appreciate you filling out the evaluation as well and answering all these poll questions, which is great to kind of get everybody participating and interacting. It's not a grade or anything. We just like to see.
I've got another question that I don't mind reading for everyone. If it essentially said, if you have time, can you explain Zoho Analytics versus Books? And Susan, you give her your 2 cents. Yeah. But hey, this is the way I see it, folks. Books is financial transactions. Books is essentially just QuickBooks or transactions or history and stuff like that. Analytics is a module, another app in Zoho where you can literally go in and pull up fields and cross-relate those fields to see if there are relationships, like sales to salesperson to, receivables. What's the age? How many of our salespeople have receivables that are over 90 days old or things like that? So analytics is another Zoho app, but it's really for you to take and twist and turn different fields to look for other relationships. Now, part of the question is on the Zoho Analytics, can we combine? The one I'm not sure about here is combining multiple companies, because in Books you can't do it. We can't do consolidations. But in Analytics, can we do consolidations in Analytics?
Yes. Can you hear me, Mel?
Yes, yeah. Tala, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for answering.
So you can do multiple Books accounts into Analytics, or you can do other tools as well. So if somebody also has like a QuickBooks historical data they want to bring in, they can bring that in. And then you can do what are called blended reports in Analytics.
Mm-hmm. In addition, Analytics as an app for Zoho is Analytics for all of the apps. There's Analytics for CRM, and there's Analytics for subscriptions, and there's Analytics for campaigns. So it's not just financial analytics.
And this is just a teaser. We're going to do a full Zoho Books and Analytics presentation in the next few weeks. So
yay.
Stay tuned for that. You'll all get information on that. But the other thing I just wanted to mention is on Analytics is when you tie that into any Zoho application like CRM or Books, there's lots of pre-filled reports that we've created So for example, when you do books and analytics, I think it's like 80 reports or something that are already there, and then you can create your own reports from there on.
Mhm.
So
Right.
yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Val.
No, it's very nice. And generally speaking, in analytics, you only have one or two people that you give access because you don't want everybody going into it. And they can create dashboards and things that anybody there's ways that you can give them links to that say they can see the analytics they want to. I don't know if that makes sense. Even inside of CRM, I was going to see if I can pull it up here.
Or in books, you have web tabs as
Right.
well.
I can look at different dashboards that have been created. That's probably not as good a one. Let me go to here, CSI profitability. Yeah, I don't know that I want to show you that one, but I'm going to show you that one anyway, where we keep track of this is actually coming from analytics, and I just put something in, and it gives, we create a dashboard that we can see, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So it looks, I'm going to go really fast, but it looks something like this. So we can kind of look to see what things are looking like for us. But as an end user, I didn't have to go create all those reports. Somebody figured out how to do them and make them look, put them into a way that I could understand them, and then I could easily see them very quickly. Inside of CRM and books, there are some basic dashboards that are available. Can't find it here. Usually called analytics, and they're just very, very basic. Like here's these come. Oops, there was a financial one. They're just very basic, but they can't do things like percentages and compare this against that. For something like that, or change of this time over that time, for something like that, you need to go into analytics, but you can still always bring those dashboards back here into CRM. And also, as Tala said, you can put it as a web tab over here so that you can bring it in and see what's going on. I don't know if there's anything. I was going to show very quickly how to do a setup it's not difficult, between CRM and Zoho. CRM and Books. So I'm just going to go into, I'm in Books right now, and I'm clicking the settings option, and I'm going to go down to integrations. And, like I have, I've got several things that are integrated. I've integrated, actually, you can do all kinds of online shopping carts. I've actually integrated e-commerce, or Zoho's commerce solution, which is a very nice integration, by the way. But right now I'm going to look at Zoho apps. And I didn't disable it. I'm just going to show you the details because it's the same thing as you set it up. You just have to put in these credentials. It tells you how to get the credentials out of your CRM. So out of your CRM, because it's allowing Books to talk to CRM. It doesn't always, you may not want to give it that ability for some reason, but you have to give permission here. And then when you set it up, it looks like this. Let me edit. When you're first time setting it up, am I going to only sync just the accounts, or am I only going to sync contacts? That would be like if you were a B2C, I'm only selling to consumers. I sell mostly to accounts, to companies, but I also want to bill a particular person in the company. So I usually pick this option. I opt to sync both ways. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I think it works. That's really where it gives you the most benefit. I use the override option because if somebody changes something in one side, I want it to change in the other. Now, occasionally I'll run across a finance team that goes, no, I don't want them updating any address fields in accounting. And I kind of understand that. But however, if the sales team knows something, I think give them permission. You can determine which books, which records you want to send over. I don't send over all of my accounts or all of my contacts. I have a little checkbox that says only these are the ones I want synced over. And then you can map your fields. In Books, they call them companies. In CRM, they call them accounts. But it's not hard. You can figure that out. If you have certain fields, there's a field in Books called price list, where you can give volume discounts if you want to. So I actually have a field in CRM. I added it so you can see what it would look like. I can sync that back and forth. So if it gets changed here, it'll change here. So if we add a price list or remove a price list, it'll automatically update. So you can just, map or not map whatever fields you want for the account. And then you can map the fields for the contacts that come over. And then you say save and sync. And I say, okay. So you can see the setup is not difficult. You want to set up vendors. There's a module in CRM that says vendors, and that's who you're going to pay. So I can see payments or purchase orders there. And of course, I want to do products. Well, the reason that you might want to do products is that it just kind of gives you the ability, the sales rep, the ability to see what products are available in the system. Not that they're going to use the products to invoice. They're going to do that out of the invoice, but sometimes it is handy to have that. And then finally you want to have this last, there's a checkbox here where you say, yes, check this. And that's what allows that section in each contact record to show the invoice, the estimate, sales orders, and purchase orders. And I guess the last one is if you can set it so that if you win a deal, it'll automatically create an invoice. And I didn't want to automate that because there's a lot of things that we would change. So you can see it's not difficult, to be honest, it doesn't want me to come back out until it's finished. It's not difficult to set up the integration at all between the two. But the nice thing is that once you integrate it with books, there's nothing to integrate with inventory or subscriptions, because books and inventory and subscriptions and expense for that, they all integrate automatically. There's nothing you have to do because they're just like little different modules of the same thing. So that's the easy part. So once you get these two, CRM and books, integrated, then you're set to go. Okay, any other questions? You look really fast.
I mean, you definitely covered a lot, and I'll go ahead and launch the last poll question. And because how much she's covered and how deep CRM really is, this just question is asking if you would like Susan to reach out to you for further guidance or any more help within CRM or books.
And Susan, if you are done with your screen share, if you could bring up the last slide, just because it has your contact info, and if there's any other questions, you can project those as well. So if you guys have any other questions, we have a couple minutes left. Please go ahead and put those in the questions panel, and Susan can share them with everyone.
So can I do this and you can do the poll at the same time?
Yeah, I've already launched the poll.
Okay.
Yeah, the poll's going, yeah.
So how often are my 10 votes refreshed? That's a good one. I didn't say that one. So your votes you get 10, and when one of the features are completed, you get back however many votes you used. If you use 3 votes on a feature that gets released, then you get 3 votes back. So let me see chats.
I know Tala and Val answered a lot of those questions.
And just want to let people know that this session is recorded. So I know Susan sometimes goes really fast because she has.
There's a lot to cover.
So if you want to go back and watch this at 0.75 speed, we will send you the link to that.
So you'll laugh at me, but when I watch YouTube stuff, I always
1.5.
No, I do 1.75.
No way.
I must be in New York or at heart or something. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
It helps me to consume a lot faster. I think too, this wasn't intended to be a training session. It's from my perspective. Right. It's intended to be something so that you can see what's possible. And I think once you see what's possible, you can always go back and figure out how to do it. Either Google it or do help or whatever. But if you know it's possible, then it makes it a lot easier.
And remember, folks, we do have really good online support. Somebody even gave us a compliment on our support group and books. If you go into the chat support and stuff, they're really terrific at that. And they're pretty much there all the time. So trying to get stuff done, that's probably one of the better places to go.
Susan, can you put up your last slide? You just have to do share materials, I think, at the bottom. You'll have to stop the screen share.
Yeah, we want to have her contact information up there.
Oh, so stop. I thought I had stopped it. Sorry. Did I not stop it?
No, you did. And then you can do share materials. I
Got it.
And then just go to the last slide.
Nope. Technology challenged.
Do you want me to? I can do it for you. You want me to?
Yeah, do that.
Okay, let's do that. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, we really do appreciate all your help with this, Susan. And kind of like what I mentioned earlier, if you want to reach out to her, feel free to do that. That's why we put her contact information up. And at the same time, she gave you a free handout, which is going over some Zoho Books quick tips. And it's very helpful if you're just kind of new to Zoho Books and you just need a little guidance for certain tools.
Susan, I tracked down your phone number and I threw that on there too. So.
That'll work. we have several phone numbers, but that's the main one, so that'll work just fine.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much, everyone.
So
really appreciate it. Go ahead,
I guess let me just say what we do and what we don't do, because that may be part of it. We do help people with implementing books, but I do not do conversions of books and all these guys, I'm glad to refer you. And I don't give accounting advice. I certainly know a lot about accounting, but I am not an accountant, nor do I ever want to be. And even if I know the answer, I won't give it. So the idea is helping people to set up and helping to train them to use it. And that's really how we work as far as the books is concerned. If it's about CRM, anything you want to do with CRM, we're good.
And if you have any of those questions on the accountant program or finding an accountant or about this session or Susan, you're going to receive an email from us. Just go ahead and respond to that email. We'll also just drop our emails into the chat box for you guys.
Happy to help, folks. Absolutely thrilled you were here. Hope this was worth your time. I know that's a pretty big investment to sit here and listen to us. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, and see you next time. Susan will be back. We're going to force her to.
You have to think of something different, though, so I can talk even faster.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll come up with something.
No worries.
But thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe. And yeah, we'll see you on the next session. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, last thing. If you want your CPE certificate, please don't close your browser window. You'll get an evaluation that pops up in just a second. And thank you, everyone, for all the amazing comments coming in. We really appreciate it. Go ahead and let us know how you really felt in the evaluation.
Your name's not attached.
We do use that information to make these sessions better. I think they've gotten a lot better. But you guys have been fantastic. I think one of the best audiences in a long time. Thank you.
Good.